Hi, everybody. Peter Lurie here to take you through this week on HRTV. Trainer Dale Romans joined Race Day America to celebrate his first Breeders' Cup win with Tappet's Fly.
The Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf and Tappet's Fly, the exciting gray filly coming down the stretch. It was such a moment for you, but particularly for you and longtime owner Frank Jones, who's been associated with your family. Tell us about that.
Yeah, Frank Jones is an owner of my father's ever since I can remember, I guess before I was born. They were very close friends and met when they were young playing basketball at the YMCA, and Frank went on to like horse racing, and he was my father's main owner for his whole career. And when my father passed away early in life at 57, and Frank just left the horses with me, and we've done pretty well together, but never had a horse like Tappet's Fly. So it was a special win to win for Frank.
Dale, you've won some big races in the past, Dubai World Cup to name just one, but was it a big relief to finally get that Breeders' Cup victory?
You know, it was, because the Dubai World Cup was great, but it wasn't in this country, and we've won several grade ones around, but on that big day to win a big race like that, it was good to get it behind us. Once you do something, it seems like it's easier to do again. So we had 2 seconds, have had 2 seconds in the Breeders' Cup in the past, but to win one was good to get that behind us.
We see some video of Tappet's Fly training here with Walter Blum, who's so much fun aboard her. Is she as tough and difficult as some of these Tappet fillies we've seen around the track?
You know, I've heard that about Tappet fillies, but she hasn't been for us. She's been push button all year, and that's the reason I think she's run so many times. She's just been very sound and easy to train and no problems. I mean, she's a filly you wouldn't even know was in the barn. I mean, she does everything right and hasn't been sick, hasn't been sore. It's just been no issues and has been a pleasure to train.
Garrett O'Rourke was on the phone with news about some of Juddmonte Farms runners post-Breeders' Cup.
What are the plans for those two, Visit and Midday, now?
Well, Visit we briefly considered for the matriarch, but having discussed it with Bobby, we've decided to run Ventura in the matriarch, and Visit is already, after coming home yesterday on a plane, and she'll probably be bred to Empire Maker next year.
So we get to see Ventura again. That's good news.
Get to see Ventura one more time and give her a chance to. It was frustrating that she got beaten. The pace obviously was too slow for her, and they went 21 last year. They go in 23 this year, and she just couldn't close against a brilliant filly like Informed Decision, like she usually does. But we'd like to give her another shot to come back and win go out a winner, and hopefully in a Grade 1 race as well.
She really did fire that race. So you mentioned the pace scenario was not to her liking, but she's versatile enough where she can run 7/8, a mile, 1 turn, 2 turns. Doesn't really matter to her.
Aaron and Joanne gave you an edge this week in handicapping Churchill's Pick 4.
I went with Choice Play on tops, and I know you'll like that because it's Wilkes.
Yeah.
Wilkes.
Like it.
And
Love
Burrell. I mean, if there'd just been Taffel, you'd be salivating.
Yeah, right.
Like,
the 1-for-16 lifetime record concerns
that
me.
concerns me, but I'll tell you, I don't know what happened last time. They were very one-paced, but I like that Calvin is still sticking with the horse. I mean, 3 races back, this is the concern. Was it a mile and an 1/8 that made them shorten in this race where they ran 3rd? This is September 5th at Saratoga. It was a maiden race. You know, it took them a long time to get going. This race, they shortened in the final strides, going today's distance. The next time at Turfway on the synthetic,
Hang on for the exacta.
They popped for the win. Not that I was counting.
Not that I was counting.
I think that most of these horses, I mean, it's not easy. I'm a projection girl. I would like Joxy Roxy, but I don't think they're going to get the distance. I have Seagull, Jeff, or Seagull,
sure,
second right now, and that's Neil Howard horse, Will Farish. They have a good closing style. Solid races at race 2 back, good enough to win, obviously. A little bit of a look at Slick Miss. I mean, this is not an easy race.
Seagull flying on the outside. Choice plays against the hedge. 3-way go. 100 yards to run. Choice plays Seagull. Here's the line. Choice play. Seagull next, followed by Bill's Presence. Quandra the outside. On the inside, Joxy Roxy.
It's Wild Mia and Antonio Gallardo, 25-1, and they win the John Franks Juvenile Fillies Turf. Hear ye, and Jeffrey Sanchez on their way to a win in the Jack Price Juvenile. Carphonic and Luis Arango now on to the front. Joni's Catch second, then Sweet Lullaby, and Carphonic will win the Joe O'Farrell Juvenile Fillies. But it's Bim Bam clear as they come down to the line, and Bim Bam wins the Arthur Appleton Juvenile Turf. Pashito the J and Abar Koa, Prince Joshua Daniel Koa. Pashito the Che takes the Jack Dudley Sprint. Sweet Repent and Manuel Cruz well on their way in the Elmer Hubeck Distaff. And Soldier's Dancer is coming to get the lead. Soldier's Dancer and Manuel Cruz, this year they take the Bonnie Heath Turf Cup. It's Too Many Toys and Carlos Olivero just in front. Too Many Toys scores the upset in the Carl G. Rose Classic.
Aaron and Jeff gave you tips for handicapping the turf this week on Against the Odds.
Now, obviously, if you're talking about handicapping turf, dirt usually is not applicable. So I don't usually look at dirt form when I'm handicapping turf. However, I will look at synthetic form because it seems to me that the synthetics translate much better to turf than dirt translates to turf, if you follow along. And of course, you also have to understand that not all turf courses are alike. Here in California, for example, Del Mar, Hollywood Park, Santa Anita, they're all grass, and they all are pretty firm. Now, at Golden Gate, the grass is a little thicker, so it's a little bit more difficult for the closers to make up ground there. So know your course, know your bias. Most grass courses favor all kinds of running styles, but certain courses do actually promote the closers, and you got to know which ones that you're dealing with.
And remember, they change year to year. If you recall, 3 years ago, Del Mar was weeds.
That's right.
Really
now it's like a pull top.
You really can have some turf races that have a different kind of condition. Watch for horses that excel on certain course conditions. Course preference. I look at maybe, and then this also ties into course distances and unique features of exactly what it is you're looking at as far as a turf runner goes, because Kentucky Downs, up and down, up and down. The unique down the hillside turf course here at Santa Anita. Look at horses that maybe perform well at certain distances that are course specialists, because they oftentimes will not transfer their form track by track, but when they get back to their favorite venue, yet another horse for course angle. I'm a big fan of this angle, and I think you can apply this not only to turf racing, much like some of the things you said, but every part of your handicapping, no matter what surface.
You've heard of horses for courses, but what about riders for regions? Jockey Aaron Greider plans to move his tack from Southern California to Hong Kong.
What precipitated your decision to move your tack to Hong Kong?
Well, it was a combination of things. I went in June. I was invited, and last year they had asked me to go throughout the meet and ride under contract to the Hong Kong Jockey Club. And I declined last year because I thought we could have a big year with Well Armed, and it was the right decision because he went on to do great things. In June of this year, when I went over there, it was a great experience, and I told him, in the future, I may be interested in coming over, and we've kept in contact throughout the year, and it just seemed like a great opportunity. It's right now the fields are a little bit short at Santa Anita and Southern California in general, and it's a very prestigious thing to be invited by the Hong Kong Jockey Club and be one of 25 riders to be able to ride over there.
As a rider in Hong Kong, you don't have an agent, you're a club rider. What does that mean in terms of getting mounts? How are they chosen?
Well, it's very different. They enter horses about a week out, and when they do, they won't put riders on them, and then they'll enter maybe on a Sunday, and then the following Wednesday they draw the post positions, and that's when the riders go about getting their calls. So as a rider, we have to do much more over there than over here, where we hire an agent that does all of our book work and gets everything lined up for us. We pretty much just have to show up and ride. The Hong Kong Jockey Club supplies every trainer and jockey with a BlackBerry, and they do a great job as far as keeping you informed. As soon as entries come out, they come across on your BlackBerry. If there's any scratches, any overweight, throughout the week you're always getting emails, and it's just your job to chart everything and try and stay on top of it. So I'm excited about it, and again, it's going to be a lot to learn. It's different being an agent than being a jockey, and I respect every agent I've ever had, and although some might not think that I did, but they've all done a great job, and now I have to try and do the same.
Owner Bill Kasner was on the phone with future plans of WinStar's Well Armed and Colonel John.
So this must mean you'll be awaiting the return of Aaron Greider from Hong Kong to ride Well Armed when he gets back.
I talked with Aaron. He
before he left, and he wanted, he had certainly mixed emotions about going to Hong Kong, and I think that was one of the things that probably, influenced him. We talked about the horse's timeline, and, I assured him that, well-armed is his mount for life.
Bill Tisnow stands at Windstar Farm, and joining him as a stallion for 2010 will be his multiple Grade 1 winning son, Colonel John. Tell us about that.
Well, we're very excited about Colonel John embarking on his second career as a stallion. We think he has certainly all of the credentials. He was a double Grade 1 winner, of course, winning the Santa Anita Derby and the Travers. I think we consider the Travers second only to the Kentucky Derby in importance for 3-year-olds. He was a stakes winner. He was on all 3 surfaces. He was a Grade 1 winner on synthetic. He was a Grade 1 winner on dirt, and he was a stakes winner in his only start on grass, and ran off a 7-month layoff, ran a mile in 1:32 3/5, which was 2/5 off the track record. And he's a gorgeous individual, just has tremendous presence. I think one of his best strengths is his professionalism, his mind. He is always one of the calmest horses in the paddock, much like his. I think Tisnow. He gets that from Tisnow. That seems to be something that Tisnow is very prepotent in transferring that to his progeny. And we're just very excited about his future.
As they make the turn back towards home, Roma Kaka towards the outside of Warkill, the first 2, followed now by Mary's Follies, who's coming through, and Mary's Follies has now put her head in front to Roma Kaka to the inside towards the outside. Kiatana is coming on. Hot Chatter is only 4th, and she's running out of time inside the final half furlong. Mary's Follies is out in front for Kent DeSormo, and Mary's Follies takes the Mrs. Revere.
The fillies in the Mrs. Revere weren't the only ones on Darren Rogers' mind this week. He weighs in on the Horse of the Year debate.
Darren, I hate to do this to you, but we saw the Breeders' Cup Classic. We know that your heart sits with Rachel Alexandra, but I've got to ask you the question, and I hate to answer this question in my own opinion. What do you think about this Horse of the Year debate?
It's just a shame that one of these two is going to lose this award, and I just think that's a shame because when Rachel dominated the Kentucky Oaks by 20 lengths here in May, that's when the talk began of all of us around the country comparing and hoping that the matchup between Rachel Alexandra and Zenyatta would take place. So since the month of May, those 2 horses are the only 2 names we as an industry have talked about. It really should be Horses of the Year based on their perfections throughout the campaigns.
I completely agree with you 100% there,
and
Darren.
I didn't feel that way going in, Millie, by the way. I really felt if Zenyatta had won the Breeders' Cup Classic, that Rachel still had it. After watching her performance, I have a tough time arguing against perfection. And it's perfection on both sides, by the way. I mean, Rachel was 8 for 8 this year. Zenyatta was 5 for 5, but she is 14 for 14.
Where would the sport be without these 2 fillies? Why, filly and mare? What would we be doing right now? We would have, nothing to focus on right now as far as something like this, and it's just unfair. So we can sit here and talk about it for.
Yeah, you're right. How often does it occur that we talk about a couple of horses for an extended period of time?
And 2 females.
Yeah, they end up being 2 fillies, and they both lived up to the hype, Millie. They both lived up to the hype, and it is a shame that we'll never get to see them decided on the racetrack. But I really hope the voters out there don't hold some disagreements with what the connections decided to do. This is not about the connections. This is about the horse. Don't penalize the horse. So I just hope the voters keep that in mind when they make this tough vote, because it's a tough one. I'd support it myself.
We're going to take a look back at the Breeders' Cup with
Okay.
a little bit of a bullet drill here. And first of all, the biggest surprise Breeders' Cup 2 days.
Biggest surprise for me?
Yeah, for you.
Probably that Einstein and Rip Van Winkle were off the board. But I thought they would both run well. That surprised me.
All right.
They weren't going to win.
Biggest disappointment. We stay there or we
Disappointment? I think the biggest disappointment for me was there wasn't 110,000 people out here, only 58,000, which I say only should have been here if you weren't here. What a sight.
The next one's maybe a little easy for you. Biggest effort?
Oh, I don't know.
Biggest performance?
Well, Zenyatta. I mean, a race for the memories. Second greatest race I ever saw here. Maybe the best. I don't know. Along with Johnny Longham's final ride, which I was here, 16 years old.
So you have seen something like that?
Yes, I have.
You have?
Oh, it took me 40 years to find them, but yeah.
Let me put it to you like this. I have not, and that is why I work in racing. That day, that race is why I work in racing.
We've seen what Zenyatta can do at ages 4 and 5. But what was she like as a yearling back in 2005?
David, we want you to take us back to the 2005 Keeneland September yearling sale when you bought Zenyatta for $60,000. What did the opening bid start at?
You know, I've kind of thought about that a lot, and actually my buddy here at Keeneland's going to get me the tape because they have a tape of when she sold. I don't really remember what we started at, but, you know, she was on our short list, and she vetted great, and we all loved her, and it was, you know, we had set a budget on her, and I just went in there and was bidding, and when I got her at 60 and I dropped the hammer, I started thinking, man, I hope I got the right horse here because I thought she'd bring more money. So I kind of ran over to the side where the horses come down to shoot, and she's always had that big distinctive blaze. And I said, okay, I got her. And my buddy that brings me the tickets, he said, what are you doing? I said, nothing. Don't worry about it. I just had to check something. So, but she, you know, I think I got a little bit lucky there that all the stars aligned, and for whatever reason, she kind of slipped through the cracks.
I'm sure you've given this some thought. Who would be your ideal pairing for the first stallion to be bred to Zenyatta?
You know what? I don't have a thought on that yet. It's a question a lot of people are asking. Ultimately, Dottie, my mother, that's one of her many areas of specialization is the matings, and you know, it'll end up being her call with the Mosses at the end. I don't know. It's tough. You know, there's so many nice stallions out there, but she's such a wonderful mare. You got to figure out who's going to be the right one right off the bat.
That's a very tough call. I mean, you know, usually it's the other way around. It's the, you know, the stallion that gets the choice. But here, it's like, does anyone really stack up to be good enough to pair with Zenyatta?
It's like being your sister. You know, is anybody good enough for your sister? So
Exactly.
I don't know.
John White traveled to Hollywood Park to meet Zenyatta just a few days after her historic win in the Breeders' Cup Classic.
That is a look at Zenyatta from this morning. My wife took these pictures. That is the exercise rider, Steve Willard. What are Zenyatta and Steve Willard looking at? There was a possum on the fence, and Zenyatta was fixated by looking at that possum. That is yours truly petting the Breeders' Cup Classic winner this morning before she went out to the training track at Hollywood Park for a gallop with John Sheriffs standing nearby. And there is Zenyatta out on that training track as she galloped. Zoe?
And she looks fantastic. I mean, I didn't think she was going to keep in training. I saw her on Wednesday walking the shed row, and she was feeling very, very full of herself. And maybe that's why they just can't contain her in the shed row. They've got to take her to the track.
I swear she could have gone out and won a race today. And there on the left end is Mario Espinoza, the groom. So let's give some publicity to him. And in between Mario and me, that is the hot walker, Carmen Zamora. So Mario and Carmen, part of that John Sheriff's team, Team Zenyatta. And again, that was quite a thrill. I thought, you know what, since she's with
Great picture of you, John.
I thought, you know what, let's go. I thought, let's go out and see Zenyatta this morning. Yeah, why not?
Zoe Cadman is taking you behind the scenes of the Breeders' Cup Trail with HRTV Diaries on some of the top horses, including this year's Classic winner. For part 3 of Zenyatta's diary, visit HRTV.com.
We're all waiting for the mighty Aphrodite, Zenyatta. Got Jerry Moss here. How nervous are you right now?
Petit peu.
Petit peu.
Petit peu.
Just a little bit nervous. And here she is. I'm here with Andy.
It's very exciting when you get to this point, so...
He's sitting up here in guard of the Mosses. Tension is building.
Congratulations, boss.
Do you think they're loud enough? Here she comes. There's Steve and his princess. And Mike's princess. Even you can't what?
Couldn't screw that horse up.
You sure?
Well,
What do you
it's
think?
close.
What do
How
you
good
think?
would she be if I wasn't galloping her?
Oh my God, there's no telling. She could be.
She beat Secretariat.
Congratulations, Mikey. How are ya?
I'd rather give her.
How good is she?
Oh, she's amazing.
Cooled out, home to bed. Doesn't look like she ran a lick. She looks fabulous. I just called her queen and she turned around. I mean, she thought I was talking about Kathy Walsh, but I was talking about Zenyatta.
She is.
The queen.
Oh, yeah. She's the treasure. She's the treasure.
So what horse you on here?
This is a $32 million claim.
She is truly an amazing racehorse. Really. I mean, she does things that horses aren't supposed to do.
She used to the camera now?
Oh, yeah. She love it.
There's Mario, her groom. I have to give him 90% of the credit. We'll give John 8% and me 2. Oh yeah, she's gotten taller. She's over a 17-1 now. Almost need a step ladder to get on her.
You know, 13 in a row is amazing. Never dreamt it could possibly happen. And which is, you know, that race is so much anxiety, you know, going into it. And seeing her pull it off the way she did was great.
We knew she was good, but we didn't know how good she would become, you know. And it's just a thrill.
You've been around hundreds, thousands of horses. What is so special about her?
You know, what is special about Zenyatta? Come on, guy. Take a look. There she is. Have you ever seen a horse like that? Perform like that? Zen? Yeah.
That's all for HRTV this week. Here's what you can look forward to next week.
I think the horses are at the gate. One more to load, I am told. And I think they're off in the 7th at Charlestown. Here they come by the grandstands the first time. On the far outside, it's going to be I'm Not a Baby going out for the lead. Into second is Ambra. They head to the backstretch after a quarter of 24 flat. And down on the outside, up to take the lead. There goes somebody. Towards the inside is somebody else. Another 4 lengths back to the shadow of somebody. And now it gets really deep. Thick pea soup around the turn here. And your guess is as good as mine as they head towards the top of the stretch. I think it's Royal Zenyatta and I'm Not a Baby. That's who was first and second. Last we knew as they head to the clubhouse turn. Things could have changed as they head for home here. On the inside, it's still I'm Not a Baby and Royal Zenyatta. Royal Zenyatta sticking the nose in front to get the win over I'm Not a Baby. Back in third was Forest Tango. And tight for fourth, Ambra or Wes's Texas Star. The unofficial winning time, a foggy 127 flat.